Today I'm going to show you how to make these hazelnut Linzer cookies. These hazelnut Linzer cookies are made with hazelnut flour and filled with chocolate ganache or raspberry filling. Alright, so we're going to start with the cookie dough. Since that has to chill for a couple hours, we'll get going on that. So I have my dry ingredients. I have a little bit less than 2.5 cups of flour. It's about 314 grams for those of you who use a scale. So to that, I'm just going to add a half a teaspoon of baking powder, a half a teaspoon of salt, and then a teaspoon of ground cinnamon. Perfect. And then I'm just going to give this a little stir. Put that cinnamon in. Alright, then we'll set that aside. And then in preparation, I always like to use room temperature ingredients, so I'm just going to put my egg in some warm water for a couple minutes. And that'll help let the butter stay smooth. It won't make the butter cold. Okay, so now we're gonna make our hazelnut flour. So I just have plain roasted unsalted hazelnuts here. We're gonna put that in the food processor along with a 1/3 cup of brown sugar. So this is about 67 grams. So you're gonna use a 1/3 cup for the batter too. So I just will put about half of it in here. And then we're gonna go ahead and blitz this up until it's really fine, coarse crumbs. Here we go. Alright, so we're gonna mix it until it's pretty fine. I'll show you the texture here. Just a little bit of crumb in there. Perfect. And then we'll go ahead and get the batter together. So I got my stand mixer here. If you don't have a stand mixer, you can just use a bowl in your hand mixer, that's fine. I'm just gonna put in 2 sticks or 1 cup of softened butter. We're gonna put the rest of our brown sugar, so 1/3 cup or about 67 grams. I'm gonna give that a good mix until it's nice and creamy. Alright, so once that's nice and creamy, light and fluffy, we're just gonna go ahead and add our room temperature egg. And then 1.5 teaspoons of vanilla extract. Oops, I'm spilling everywhere. And then we're just gonna mix that up, and then just make sure you scrape down the sides as needed. So it should come together somewhat. It's gonna look a little bit lumpy or curdled, that's fine. The dry ingredients will help it all come together. So I'm just gonna go ahead and add our flour mixture. So that has the baking powder, salt, and the cinnamon in it already. And then we're gonna add our hazelnut mixture that we pulsed up. Alright, so that's done mixing. It's pretty thick, but also pretty sticky, if that makes sense. So what we're gonna do is divide it into 2, wrap it in plastic, and then chill it for 3 hours in the fridge. It's super thick. Just gonna try to divide it as best we can. Doesn't have to be perfectly even. We're just gonna roll them out. Well, we got it divided. I'm just gonna press it out a little bit, and then we'll wrap them up. I like to press it a little bit more in the disc shape if you can. Makes it easier to roll it out. And then into the fridge we go. The dough's been chilling for about 3 hours, so I'm just gonna take it out and roll it out. See, I put down some parchment paper. I'm just gonna sprinkle it with some flour. This will help it not stick when we cut them out. Sprinkle the top. And then we're just gonna roll it. I go slow, pretty slow, so try not to crack anything. And then rotate. Use more flour as you need it. And then just keep going. I have some little cracks here, that's fine. We'll have to re-roll anyway, so just do the best you can. And then we're just gonna cut out some shapes. So I rolled it to about 1/4 inch thick. We're gonna cut them out. I'm gonna try to avoid the cracked parts, and then we'll just re-roll the scraps and whatever's cracked. Alright, some of them popped out while we were cutting, but the ones that don't, just go through with a spatula. Put them on your cookie sheet. And then we're just gonna do this until all the dough has been cut out. Alright, so I got my first pan cut out and arranged. So I'm just gonna stick these in the refrigerator while I work on the rest of the dough. All right, so these have been chilling just while I'm rolling out the dough, the other second half. So these are gonna bake at 350 for about 11 to 13 minutes. So since we're making a take on Linzer cookies, they're gonna be sandwiched with some beautiful filling inside. We want that filling to be showcased, so we're gonna cut a hole in the top cookies. So take half of your cookies. I just use a little piping tip that I flipped upside down. Try to get in the middle and push down to get a little circle out. You can re-roll these with your cookie scraps to get even more cookies, no wasting. All right, so it's been 13 minutes. I think they look good, they smell delicious. I'm gonna take them out. We'll let them cool in the pan for about 5 minutes and then we'll put them on a wire cooling rack to cool the rest of the way. I'm just gonna go ahead and get the tops and put those in the oven now too. All right, so these have been cooling for about 5 minutes. So I'm just gonna take them and put them on the wire cooling rack to cool down. So the tops just came out of the oven. They look perfect. Same thing, we're just gonna let them cool for about 5 minutes and then we'll put them on a rack also. So now we're gonna move on to the fillings. For the fillings, you could really use whatever you think will go best. What I'm gonna do is like a simple chocolate glaze and then a raspberry jam for some of them. We'll do the chocolate glaze first. We're gonna start with 90 grams or about half a cup of chocolate chips. And then to that, we're gonna add 2 tablespoons or about 28 grams of butter. And then we're gonna add 2 teaspoons or about 10 mils of cornstarch. That keeps the glaze nice and shiny. And then we're gonna add 2 teaspoons or 10 mils of water. Perfect. Now we're just gonna microwave this for about 45 seconds, stirring it, make sure it all gets melted and smooth. All right, so I just pulled it out of the microwave. The butter looks like it's melted, so I'm just gonna give it a stir to bring it all together. And then we'll let it cool down a little bit before we fill the cookies. So it looks a little bit watery right now, but just keep stirring it and it's gonna come together. I promise it's gonna be the most like shiny, luscious, beautiful chocolate glaze you ever saw. Silky smooth. About 5 minutes with these cooling, so I'm just gonna put these on the rack. Okay, so once the cookies have cooled down, we're just gonna sprinkle the top ones, so the ones with the holes, with a little bit of powdered sugar. This is totally optional, just for show. I put the cookies over a cookie sheet just to help with the mess. I'm just gonna put our chocolate on. I'm just gonna put a little dollop of chocolate ganache right in the middle of the bottom cookie. And then we'll do the rest with, or not the rest, but the other half with raspberry jam. All right, then we're just gonna take a top and sandwich it right on. They should all be roughly the same size, but just try to match them up the best you can. And then we'll just keep going until they're all sandwiched. So that's how you make them. Hazelnut Linzer cookies. For the full recipe, visit my website, nomadegf.com. Thank you.